Welcome. I'm your host, Compton J. I'm joined by Professor Anthony Zenkus. How are you doing tonight, sir?
It's Zenkus. I'm doing all right. The world is is kind of falling apart, but it also has been for quite a while. So I will say, in light of everything, I'm okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. My apologies for starting a little bit late. I had a problem with getting the Rockfin stream started, but it's up and running. So welcome to
Great.
everybody on Rockfin. Welcome to everybody on YouTube, on Twitter, and all other spaces that you're viewing this stream. Earlier today, um, I did a sort of a first part to this stream where I gave, my assessment um, of sort of the PR tour that that has went on around this topic and this issue with Nick Brana and MPP.
hmm
Um, so for this stream, I want to lean more on you, and I want to allow you to describe your interactions um, with the accuser. I don't want to put any words in your mouth, so I'm gonna just kind of hand it over to you and ask what is this all about?
All right. Well, I think it's really important that I am here to discuss the issue of what's going on specifically with the woman who accused Nick Brana of sexual harassment in the workplace. And also to speak generally about sexual harassment in the workplace and what my concerns are regarding the response of Nick Brana and the People's Party to the issue of these sexual assault allegations. What I'm not here to talk about is, and I know you and I spoke about this, but for the general audience, I'm not here to talk about the politics of it. I'm not here to talk about whether or not Nick, is an effective leader of the party. All of that matters, but that's not what it's about today. I was talking to, and just to disclose how I came to know this story, a third party reached out to me recently to connect me with the person who made the allegations. I was not aware of any of this at the time. To see if I could be helpful in giving some guidance and some suggestions about how to navigate what's going on. So I've been talking regularly, basically, really daily, to this person. I made a tweet, put out a tweet, I don't know, sometime within the past 5 days or so, maybe late last week. And I said that I have spoken to this woman who made the allegations against Nick. I believe her, right? My conclusions. This is my opinion based on my background in trauma. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened from the perch of somebody who might be there or even from the victim. All I know is what I was told and the way I was told it, and we'll get into this in a little bit, made it clear to me that I can be confident in saying that I do believe this person. Okay. And what I wanted to first talk about was the response that's happened since Jordan Sheridan had Nick on the show. You did a nice piece on that, by the way. And basically, Nick's response and the People's Party's response, which I find troubling. Because if you want to look at everything you could do wrong in handling an issue of sexual assault allegations, this is what's been happening. And in speaking with the woman who made these allegations and a friend of hers who's supportive of her, I said, when I look at this, for me, I take it out of the People's Party. This could be a laundromat, and this could be her boss at the laundromat, right? That's the dynamic that we need to look at this through the lens of not, well, this is the People's Party, they represent progressive values, this is bad for the party. All of that may be true, and this is about workplace sexual harassment. And that's what, that really want to drill that point home, because I see people struggling on Twitter and having conversations, well-intentioned people, and they're bringing all the other stuff in. And I'm saying it's fine to talk about the other stuff, but in regards of a case of sexual harassment where allegations have been made, serious allegations have been made, we really need to look at that in its own universe, right? So if it's okay with you, I kind of want to just go a little bit over some of the problems I've had with the response and why I think it's harmful. Would that be all right to do?
Absolutely. Let me just say this part, because you and I both, busy. I have 5 wife, kids. You had like several different Zoom meetings, so it's been very hard for us to even speak about the topic other than this is what we want to talk about. And you haven't seen my earlier stream.
No,
I just find it for those who watched earlier, it's very eye-opening that you're talking about a lot of the same subject, because my stream earlier was about the response was what I didn't like. So right. I'm just pointing out the fact that because it seems very coincidental, like we didn't set this up. I didn't know that this was the approach. Yeah, I didn't know that this was going to be the approach. And I just wanted to point that out. So continue with you were.
And I want to say, like, what I'm going to try to offer is my critique with a trauma-informed perspective of this response and why it's harmful to the person who made the allegations and why it's harmful to anybody who's been a victim of sexual harassment, okay, or who's made claims of being victimized by it. So there's a couple of things, and I know you've gone over some of this. I'm assuming you went over some of this. And the first thing is, okay, so I've been speaking with the woman who made these allegations. She made them privately, just for those that don't know and aren't aware, as part of an internal investigation at her workplace. She did not come forward publicly and make these allegations. Like, that's not what happened, right? She made them privately, as is her right. So anybody who believes they've been a victim of any type of harassment in the workplace has that right to come forward in that workplace in a safe environment, make their concerns known, and then has the expectation that a fair and thorough investigation will be made with the primary purpose of keeping that person safe. And then also, if it's determined that somebody broke the rules, whether or not it was legal or illegal, just broke the rules in the workplace, then they can deal with that in with disciplinary measures. But the primary goal of the woman who made these allegations, and I've spoken to her multiple times about this, she wanted the behavior to stop. Right? That's what anybody who's a victim of any type of harassment wants. In the first thing, she wants the behavior to stop, wanted the behavior to stop. The response, somebody, I don't know if it was one of the board members, and I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, or one of the former board members, because some people had been let go, right? Jordan Sheridan, in his interview with Nick, and prior to that, brought up the fact that these allegations had been made. Right? That's all he mentioned. I watched those interviews and those reports. He did not go into detail. I don't know what details he may or may not have, but he didn't go into detail. He said there are sexual assault allegations. Okay. The response on the People's Party Twitter page and web page is a letter by Nick Brana, okay, who has a right to defend themselves. Absolutely. But the response starts with classifying the allegations as politically motivated while offering zero evidence of that. That's a concern for me because, like I said, I look at this like it could have happened in a restaurant. It could have happened in a laundromat. And by the way, it happens in these places all the time. I have problems with a person who's been accused when the victim has not come forward publicly, attacking the character of that victim by saying this is a political hit job. And the words politically motivated were, used by him many times, and it's right at the beginning of that letter. So the first thing is, I don't understand who's advising Nick and the party, but the way that a person can defend themselves and respond as if a victim has not come forward and shared details should be the following. They should say that if they believe this, that they deny the allegation. Boom. Be a broken record. Just listen. I deny the allegations. I deny the allegations. That's it. Because the victim has not come forward publicly and said, A, B, and C happened to me. Here's how I felt. Here's what this is like for me. It's a struggle. I'm really traumatized. She hasn't done any of that. She's remained quiet. Right? My conversations with her are privileged conversations. They're confidential conversations. I'm not going to reveal the things she said to me here on this broadcast. So it is not appropriate to assign motivation to somebody who alleged sexual harassment when that victim has not even come forward, because what it does is it has the purpose, intended or not, of maligning the character of that person. If they ever do feel comfortable coming forward and saying, listen, I want to set the record straight, whether or not the board found that there was an indication that it happened or not, here's what I experienced. Now this person is branded as being politically motivated. To support that, Nick went into a whole bunch of stuff that looked to me to be very extraneous. He brought up Paula Jean Swearingen. What does Paula Jean Swearingen and her job performance at the People's Party have to do with serious allegations of sexual harassment? That name was just thrown out there. I thought, like, if I didn't even know the players, like I know who Paula Jean is from, she ran against Manchin.
Right, when she ran.
Right? And we're mutual, follow each other on Twitter. Look, why was her name brought into this? That's not what this is about. There maybe have been an issue with Paula Jean Swearingen. Maybe Nick and others on the board weren't happy. I don't know. And also, this is about workplace sexual harassment, and I don't really give a shit about some other employee's job performance right now when it comes to this topic. And then it went on to talk about how there was a centrist, liberal, I don't know if they said Democratic Party aligned or similar to the Democratic Party attempt to come out and, to take over the party, get rid of Nick. And it was this whole plot basically saying, if not completely and firmly alleging, but hinting that these sexual assault allegations were concocted as a political plot to remove Nick from his position at the People's Party. You have just maligned a victim who hasn't even come forward. And people can say, well, Nick's entitled to due process. Absolutely. Of course. And he's entitled to deny the allegations. That's fine. But listing a whole bunch of things that really have nothing to do with workplace sexual harassment serves to also muddy the waters. Because we know people like you and me are very dubious on the Democratic Party. So, I'll just get this out here. Probably, policy-wise, I agree with Nick Brana on what his stated policy positions are. I don't know, 90% of the time or more, right? So this isn't about politics for me. This is about how do we treat victims, or if people prefer the term, those who allege victimization, how do we treat them when they come forward or when allegations have been leaked? So the first piece, saying it's politically motivated, clouding it up, getting everybody amped up, and saying this is a plot from the Democrats. Because guess what we know? The Democratic Party is underhanded and is pretty horrible. And, you spend lots of time talking about why I've joined you in your discussions of that. We're on the same page with that. This isn't about politics. That should never have been brought into that letter. That letter was this long document. It should have been a paragraph. I deny the allegations. This is blah, 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 blah. And that's it. The next thing he did, and this is in no particular order of importance, Nick revealed or claimed that the person who made the allegations was in a consensual relationship with him, dating relationship with him. And then further went on to add that she initiated it. Now I'm concerned. Now, when I first saw Politically Motivated, I thought, that's unfortunate. He probably shouldn't have said that. But I was eager to read his response. And then he said, this is a person who I had a consensual relationship with. So let's first get this out here. He just outed that person without saying her name. I don't know what his intent was. And I actually, frankly, I don't care what his intent was. He just outed a victim because anybody, now what the People's Party has, I've heard like 2,300 or more people involved in the party nationally. There's a lot of people, right? There are people who know who he dated. Mm-hmm. If a woman who has been victimized or has made these allegations has not chosen to come forward, she has the right to remain anonymous. Nick has the right to deny the allegations plainly and simply. I'm sorry, if that didn't happen, I deny this wholeheartedly, full force, whatever, you have a right to do it. What you don't have a right to do is out a victim and cause trauma in that victim's life. That, again, I don't know what the intent, nor do I care is, but there is no reason to have revealed that this person was in a consensual relationship, or Nick is saying that the person was in a consensual relationship with them. That's not something that we needed to know. People start putting two and two together, and here's what happens. On Twitter, on comment sections of prominent podcasters, people say, I know who that is. It's so-and-so, and they threw the initial out. And then somebody below goes, oh, it's, and then they said the name. This is a safety issue. It is somebody who comes forward with these allegations in the workplace. I can just say, as a person who's done that, who's come forward with allegations of workplace sexual harassment, I didn't want to do it. I had to be convinced by other employees that I shouldn't let it go. I just wanted it to stop. And listen, anybody who knows me, whether you love me or hate me, you know this. I got a big mouth. I know that. But when it came to standing up for myself in that situation, I didn't want to. So I can imagine I'm not the only one with those feelings. When I spoke with this woman who made these allegations, she told me how difficult it was for her to come forward. And also, one of the processes of being victimized, whether it's sexual harassment or sexual assault, is that often people don't want to think they've been victimized this way. So it's very common for people to make excuses and be like, well, the person, the person that they're alleging hurt them, they didn't really mean it. In our brains, when we're victimized, we try to make sense of something, especially if it's somebody we trust. Right? So coming forward,
is that to lessen the trauma?
Well, I think you're onto that because, yeah, absolutely. It's a defense mechanism. Nobody wants to admit that this horrible thing has happened to them. I just for your listeners who don't know, why am I referred to as an expert in sexual violence and trauma? And I think it's important to say. So I was the director of multiple departments. So I was a senior director. I was a director at 2 rape crisis centers in New York. For years, I've worked in the victim services field more than half of my career. I'm considered an expert by the New York State Judicial Institute, who hired me to come in and train over 1,000 judges in New York State on trauma. I teach trauma to graduate students at Columbia University. I spoke nationally before the pandemic. Well, actually, I did a couple of online conferences during the pandemic. So I'm an acknowledged expert. Does that mean people in your audience have to believe me? Because, what's an expert? That and 275 gets you on the subway. I understand. No, but I'm not pulling this out of my ass. Okay. I've worked with many, many victims of rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment. And I've supervised clinical therapy programs for them. When I spoke with the woman who made these allegations, I heard what I needed to hear to let me know that she was talking about a real trauma experience, and it continues to have impact in her life, and is to be traumatized by the events that may have happened, alleged events that have happened, right, is one thing. But most victims don't have to have their names put on social media like YouTube and Twitter, or bantered about in the comment sections of Slacks. Those are like the places
Right.
where people communicate. For those that don't know, like the party has a Slack. It's very common. If you were involved in the Bernie campaign, you probably know about Slack.
Yeah.
So most victims don't have their names thrown out there like that. Coming forward isn't easy anyway, but when your name starts to be thrown out there and then you start to be accused of political motivation and all of that, now it's re-traumatizing to the victim. So the way this has been handled has been very anti-victim. Like I said, anyone accused of anything has the right to say, I deny this. These allegations are false. I deny them. Boom. Stop there. Because the person has not come forward. Another thing people need to understand, which I think is very, very upsetting that the People's Party even allowed this on their page, was the first thing I criticized about Nick saying that it was a consensual relationship, right? He outed the victim that is not okay. The second thing is, people in consensual relationships can be harassed, assaulted, and raped. The mentality for the longest time was that was not the case. In fact, like in New York State, marital rape wasn't a separate charge until, like, I believe 1978. Because the belief was, well, if you're in a relationship with the person, if you're married to the person, you can do whatever you want to them. And by the you, they meant the man, right? We've thankfully gotten beyond that. Remember, Donald Trump was accused of raping, I think it was his first wife, Ivana Trump.
But have we gotten beyond that?
Well,
because the tactic is still being used, so maybe there is some residual. Because it's not. It's like just putting a cloud over it. It's not a direct thing. You get what I'm saying when you do
of course. That's the intent.
Yeah.
So when I say we've gotten beyond it, like legally we have.
Yes.
But do people who are accused still use that? Yeah, actually, because Trump's lawyers use that as a defense. Well, we were married. Yeah, but that's not okay.
Because it does something to the human mind, to the human understanding, to say, wait a minute, these two people were at a point where they both liked each other. That
right.
It does something culturally, how we understand. It does something to change how we now understand even the allegation.
Hey, if you're driving a car and you invite me in for a ride, does that give you the right to, like, you would never do this, push me out of the car as you're driving down the freeway in LA? No. But if you did that and your defense was, well, he got in the car with me. Yes. But I don't expect to be pushed out of the car while you're driving.
Right.
That might be a clumsy metaphor. But the point I'm making is, somebody being in a consensual relationship doesn't mean that it is okay that they were subjected potentially to sexual harassment or assault or rape. And I mean, in any case, not just this case, because I'm talking about sexual harassment in this case. and it should never be brought up because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And it has been used against many victims, mostly women, but any gender can be a victim of domestic violence or sexual violence. It has been used for a long, long time. And the fact that it's still being used, and by the People's Party, is a little cringe for me. So, I think I have some, remind me before I go that I do have some recommendations for them on how they can move forward that would be helpful. All right. So, second thing, so it was consensual. I will also say on one of the podcasts that I saw Nick on, he went into unnecessary detail about physical interactions he had.
Okay. I was going to bring that up, but I didn't know if I should have brought, because I was going to, because every time you kept saying consensual, I was going to bring up he was on Jackson's show and actually said more. Like,
yeah, he said, and I think if I'm mixing up my podcasters, because I also watched the Savvy's show with him, and I believe that's one where he also went into detail. I could be wrong. So no offense to anyone.
No, I could be wrong. Maybe it was on the Savvy show. Yeah, it could have been on the Savvy show. I've watched 3 streams, so it could have been.
Yeah, it's been a lot, and yeah. So I think that so saying that you're in a consensual or we're in a consensual relationship, saying that this person initiated it is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Did workplace sexual harassment happen or not? You're going to deny the allegations, Any other detail you offer is unnecessary and can be harmful. And in this case, it's been harmful. So then when I saw, talk about cringe, Nick go into detail about some of the earlier physical interactions with this person that he remembered, I got worried. I remember telling this woman who made the allegations, I'm going to refer to her as the victim. I understand there are many people that don't know that she's a victim or think of her as a victim. I understand that. So I'm not saying it in legal sense, right? But she's definitely being victimized by what's happened after, right? So I was concerned about her. So I advised her as a friend at this point, now that we know each other and we're talking regularly, I said, listen, my advice, stay off of social media right now, because you're going to see and hear things that are not going to be helpful in your healing process. Nobody should have to have gone forward with allegations of sexual harassment privately in an internal investigation in a private organization, and now hear the person that you believe harmed you on public podcasts where thousands of people are eventually going to see this, saying, physically revealing intimate things that you did with them, or they're saying, because I don't know what's true and what's not in what those interactions were. That is completely unnecessary. And again, I'm not worried about intent. It serves the purpose of intimidating that victim into further silence and also causing harm to them, because it's re-triggering of the trauma. So their name has been outed. I will say, Nick didn't say the name, but gave enough information for those who know enough to say the name. Therefore, that's a terrible thing to do. Again, just reminding everybody, this person is anonymous, came forward privately, did not come forward to the press or the public. That wasn't their intention. In fact, they didn't reach out to Jordan Sheridan. Jordan Sheridan, a journalist, reached out to them for comment. That's how that happened. So saying that it's a political plot that was concocted by enemies of populism and the People's Party, and then bringing up vaccine mandates, like, we're not here to talk about vaccine mandates. We're here to talk about sexual harassment and allegations of sexual harassment in the workplace involving the People's Party and Nick Brana. That's it. Deny the allegations. Whether or not somebody is pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine doesn't fucking matter when it comes to sexual harassment. So let's talk about the issue.
Can I interject here? it is, and I said this in my stream. It is so clear to me. This feels just so much like a Democratic strategy. It feels so duopoly-ish. It feels like a response that Joe Biden gave, or the same way he responded to the allegations of Tara Reid. It feels so much like that to me.
Well,
And I don't think like for these statements and these things you're pointing out as unnecessary things, I don't think these are happenstance. I think this is a strategy in order to sully the reputation of this person before they even say anything.
right. And that, the victim did not do that in public to the person they accused. They did not do that. They didn't come forward and say, Nick Brana is a so-and-so and a really whatever. They didn't say any of that. They made allegations. They felt harmed and aggrieved in the workplace. They came forward, used the proper channels that is their right. And then this is what happened. Talk about the Democratic playbook. So I happen to live through that because I am and have continued to be a supporter of Tara Reid, who I believe was sexually assaulted by President Biden when he was a senator. And although the cases are different, there are some parallels because, and this was the next point I was going to get to. Yeah, I mean, it was never about let's take this allegation seriously with Biden and investigate it publicly. There's never, anybody who wonders, there's never been an official investigation into the multiple accounts alleging that Joe Biden inappropriately touched people, including a 19-year-old college student at a sexual assault awareness event who had just disclosed her own sexual assault in public for the first time, who said that Joe Biden, she sat next to him or he sat next to her, put his hand, rested it on her thigh after she just talked about her rape. She was 19 years old, and then he pulled her in for a hug and wouldn't let go, and she kept trying to squirm away, right? Those things have never been investigated, nor have the extremely serious allegations, like I said, which I believe 100% by Tara Reid against Joe Biden. So that's never been officially investigated. But an interesting thing, when Biden was asked by Mika Brzezinski, the only time a reporter ever asked him, it was Mika, when he was asked, so he said, yes, I categorically deny this. Okay, that's your right. You can say it. And then he goes, and she keeps changing her story. I wrote 2 articles for Common Dreams. One's entitled Joe Biden, The Inconvenient Truth of Rape. And the other one was Joe Biden, well, you just look up my name, Joe Biden, the Dark, and something else, Rape Apology in the Dark. So explaining that it is very typical for victims of sexual harassment and assault to tell part of their story first and then more of their story as they feel comfortable.
What was the name of that article? I'm going to bring it up real quick. What was
so
the
the
name
first
of the
one was The Inconvenient Truth of Rape. And then the second one was Joe Biden, Rape Apology, and Living in the Dark. And Living in the Dark. I think both of them did deal with this issue. So let me lay it out for people. When somebody is traumatized, trauma memories are stored in the brain in a very different way than normal memories are stored in the brain. Like the memory, yeah, there it is. So that's me. That was almost 2 years ago. Lovely photo. Oh my God.
almost used that picture for the
you know what? Listen, you reach an age where you're like, listen, this is me. You like it or you don't like it, I don't really give a shit. So the point is that the trope, she changed her story, and apologies that I'm doing the gender binary here, but it could be anybody of any gender expression who's a victim. But that trope is dangerous and very untrauma informed, not trauma informed.
Before you explain this, because again, I just want to say you and I did not talk about this already, but you happen to be saying a lot of the same things that I said earlier, and one of them was this, that I heard in one of the streams I pointed out earlier was a Jackson stream. I heard the trope of her story keeps changing, and I couldn't believe that, because it's like I thought as leftists we all understood with the Tara Reid how that was used.
Oh, it was.
I thought we all understood that, and this is a normal thing for somebody who has went through trauma, sexual trauma in particular. Well, this is something that is not uncommon.
Right. And let me throw out there, Tara Reid's story never changed. Tara Reid alleged, with, I believe, 7 other women in April of 2019, alleged sexual harassment by her then boss, Senator Joe Biden. She was one of 8 women. She wasn't out of the blue. And by the way, I don't know why we need multiplicity when it comes to these charges, but that seems to be how the press responds most frequently. There, 8 women came forward, like I said, including the 19-year-old, now 20-something, who was inappropriately touched by Joe Biden, or alleged it. Tara Reid disclosed sexual harassment in the workplace by then Senator Biden in April. She didn't publicly come forward disclosing her story of how she was sexually assaulted. I would think I classify it as a violently sexually assaulted by the then Senator Biden, until March of 2020 on the Katie Halper podcast. That's where I first heard about it. But listen, you hear all these things like Zenkus and Reid knew each other ahead of time. They coordinated. I had no idea who she was, and I didn't remember her name when I read that article, or the multiple articles that came out in April 2019 saying 8 women said this about Joe Biden. All I remember at that point was going to find that Daily Show thing where they show him creepily touching the children and Jon Stewart having those reactions. But I didn't remember anybody of those names. So why that's relevant too is another allegation that came forth in all the, I don't know if it was in the official letter from the People's Party or it's just something that Nick has said, but something about the accusation that I think it was in the letter, that the woman who made the allegations against Nick Brana was friends with one of the women who made allegations against Shahid Buttar, if I'm saying his name correctly. I hope I am. And first of all, again, irrelevant if they are friends. And are you sure they're friends? Or is it that, like, I know a lot of people that I wouldn't consider friends. I might have known somebody. And my question would be like, well, did you know them? Are you friends with them? And what does it matter? How many women are victims of sexual harassment, assault, or rape in their lives? Okay, a lot. It would be impossible for you not to have ever, if you're a woman in the United States, probably anywhere else in the world, there's no way you don't have any friends that have been harassed, assaulted, or raped. So it is anti-victim, whether or not it's intended that way, to even mention that. What it does is, it seems like the intent there was, well, we believe these accusations, and I'm sorry to bring Shahid Buttar into this. I didn't want to. Nick brought him into it. That we believe that the person who came forward against him did not do so in good faith, and that this was not sexual harassment. Okay, well then therefore this case isn't, and the reality is there's
right. This is new information that I did not know that, but it adds to the point that I was making, that this feels very much as a Democratic strategy. I almost feel like maybe the lawyer that they're getting information is a Democratic lawyer, because this sounds just like these things. What you're describing. Go ahead, and then I
was going to say, or an asshole, right? Or just a really bad lawyer, because again, I'm not an attorney. But if I said, or, I'm not saying they are. If I were advising somebody on this, of course, if I believed the person committed the crime, I would just say admit it, or the offense, whether it's criminal or not. I would say admit it and step down, right? If I believed it, right? But I'm not advising Nick Brana. But if I was, and I didn't believe the person who made these allegations, I would say simply make a denial and leave it there, because none of these things matter. Who she is or isn't friends with Is this politically motivated? What's her stance on vaccine mandates? Honestly, you just let me say this for those that don't know. You can be sexually harassed, assaulted, or raped, whether you are pro or anti-vax or pro or anti-mandate. Guess what? It has nothing to do with it. So let's stop obfuscating the issue of sexual harassment.
It's a strategy. I have to say this.
Yeah.
This is a strategy. This is why I'm saying this is like a democratic. It feels so much like this is a strategy. You're throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, hoping whatever small amount of people that you're able to chip away at her believability. That's all you're trying to do. So
that's
people are going to pull whichever one they hold on to. Different people are going to pull something from that letter different. So it's like I'm throwing a bunch of stuff to hope that it,
Well, I mean, now Biden didn't say this because he has the Democratic machine has the mainstream media locked up. But what happened with Tara Reade, coincidentally, there were like a bunch of articles that came out within the same like week or week and a half attacking her character. And, one of them in Politico, like Politico, who is your editor? Who's allowing this garbage? Did these people go to journalism school? Somebody alleges sexual assault against a putative nominee of the Democratic Party, and Politico's response is to interview landlords from 30 years ago. Like, I teach at Columbia, so I mean, I probably would read it anyway, but I fairly regularly will look at the Columbia Journalism Review, right? Which is pretty interesting, right? People should look at it. It's got some good stuff on freedom of the press and all that. Like, did these people go to a journalism school? Like, how did they think? Tara Reade accuses Joe Biden of some horrible crimes, and I'm going to talk to a landlord she had 30 years ago because that's relevant. How? So you're talking about the Democratic playbook. And listen, obviously, the Republican playbook is pretty similar because
it's pretty similar.
Rob Porter, I think is his name, was accused of domestic violence by a current or former intimate partner, right? He was an aide to Trump. I was interviewed on the news, the local news, as an expert in New York on sexual violence and trauma. And so they interviewed me. Out comes Trump, and he goes, "This is all I can't do his voice. I started doing my God. But this is all a political hit job. This is nonsense. It's all political. It's all political." I mean, he does that simple thing where he says the phrase over and over and over again. And that's no mistake. That's how he gets his followers to, be like, "Oh, it's all political." It's like a hypnosis kind of thing. It's fucked up.
Right.
So he says that. And now Nick Brana from the People's Party, you're going to be like, "This is a political hit job." Like I said, dude, deny the allegation and shut your mouth. You have a right to defend yourself, but this victim has not come forward, and you do not have a right to reveal that she was in a consensual relationship with you, that she put her hand here or there, or that she initiated the relationship. That's disgusting, unnecessary, and really harmful and dangerous. When you have political sentiments as heated as they are right now, you are putting the safety of somebody who made an allegation against you in danger, whether you intended to or not. That's not a defense. That's what CJ is talking about. That's smearing a victim, and it is, whether you mean to or not, directly out of Trump's playbook and Biden's playbook. And what we, if we want to talk about politics, the only thing I'm going to say is this: people support third parties because they're sick of the bullshit of the other two.
Right.
So when I give my advice at the end, because I can't stay on forever, you can't have me on forever, I will recommend about what the People's Party needs to do. But I will say this piece right now: stop it. Stop it right now. Stop talking about details of this that the victim herself has not come forward. Deny an allegation is one thing. Talking about who they're friends with, who may have made an allegation, false or otherwise, against another person, irrelevant. And let's go back to the change their story thing, because they think this is important.
Yes, let me just read this here because it's relevant to the point you just made. People who think it's easy to come forward are simply wrong. This chat evidence why people attack the victim. And I just wanted to make that point. So this, she's saying that, there is some comments in the chat where people, kind of,
Yes.
sullying the name or
And
attacking the victim. And she's pointing out this is the whole reason why it's hard for people to come out, is because we have this way of thinking, which is very chauvinistic.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
It really is. And by the way, thank you, Renee Johnston, who lately I've seen some tweets about this issue that she's made. She's done some, real good stuff out there. So keep talking about it. And thank you for bringing this up. It is not easy to come forward, and that whole trope, people know this. They're going to be accused of changing their story. I was very clear on this. Read the 2 articles on Tara Reid if people don't understand that I put into Common Dreams. She did not at any time change her story. She added to her story because most people that come forward with, by the way, this person we're talking about here, this person who I think has been victimized, hasn't come forward publicly, but comes forth with an allegation. It's almost like dipping your toe in the water. You might say, all right, this happened. I've seen it so many times where a victim would say, well, he touched me inappropriately above the clothing, which is a sexual assault, by the way. You're not allowed. It's all about consent, right? If somebody touched you in a private area above the clothing, that's not okay, right? And maybe as they start to tell the story and they start to feel a little more empowered, they might tell the rest of the story. That's what happened with Tara Reid. So Nick is alluding, and other members of the People's Party and the board are saying, well, she changed her story. She told different information to different people. And I'm letting you know, I'm going to pull my experience out here as an expert in trauma, and I am, specifically around sexual violence. It is more the norm than not for somebody to give pieces of the story and things that may sound conflicting. In my experience, it makes more sense that the person who's got their great story and just sticks to it, and there's like never a little blipper, but that's not memorized to me. When you deal with trauma, it's not just recalling a memory. So like CJ, if I say like, hey, pre-pandemic, when's the last time you visited family outside of LA or wherever you live? Like you can say, well, we went here. I went on this vacation. I spent the weekend, blah, blah, blah. You can give me the beginning, the middle, and the ending of that. It's a memory that's stored up there. What trauma memories are is they're steeped in emotion and sensory feeling. They're not stored in the brain in the same way. So when the memories get disclosed verbally, because I'll tell you, trauma memories.
Yeah, that'll be definitely another discussion for when I have more clarity on the.
All right. Trauma.
Oh, I'm here. Oh, you thought I was reading the comment. I know I didn't freeze.
No, I just heard something in the background, but that's okay.
Gotcha.
That's okay. Say hello to everybody for me. So trauma memories are not stored in the brain in a narrative way. So that's important, which means our narrative is our speech. We don't connect the speech part of the brain to the trauma part of the brain in the beginning when we're starting to process it. That actually takes work and that takes time. So when somebody tries to verbalize what happened to them, I've trained police on this. You're a first responder. Somebody's talking to you about rape. I've trained medical first responders, like emergency room nurses. Here's what to expect when somebody comes in who's a victim of, sexual assault or rape, right? I'm talking about that position. And the answer is you're going to get a story that's all over the place. So let's stop saying the words, she changed her story. Especially, again, let me go back to, this person hasn't come forward. What I'm hearing when I look at it in its totality, talking about saying that there was a consensual relationship with the victim or the person that you're seeing as an alleged victim, the accuser, saying that she initiated it, giving details of physical intimacy, things that happened in that relationship, saying who she's friends with who may have accused another person, saying she changed her story, talking about potential political motivations. All of that is rape culture talk. That's not how you defend yourself against an allegation. And I'm not trying to help him here, but in a way, I just want it to stop. And no, this person hasn't chosen to come forward. What does this do to people who have also been in this situation? Because Tara Reid and I have talked about this multiple times, the chilling effect that her treatment, and she uses these words, and it's heartbreaking to hear her say it. Tara Reid continues to be erased by the media. You literally have a sitting president in the Democratic Party who's been accused of, by at least 8 women, of inappropriate touch, who's been seen on video touching children in ways that are extremely questionable, and I'm being kind there, and has been accused of 2 major felonies. I mean, multiple felonies with accused of, not charged with, but crimes that would constitute felonies by Tara Reid, because sexual assault is felony. And there's not been one investigation. She's been erased. What is the People's Party trying to do here? Are you trying to do what was done to Tara Reid? Now, I understand there are 2 different cases and 2 different people, and that's true. But how we respond when this issue comes up matters. It matters to all those other victims out there who are, as Renee Johnston, I believe that was her name, who are petrified to come forward even in their workplace. You know, in our country, you lose your workplace, you lose your medical insurance, right? There's a lot of women. This is one of the biggest arguments for Medicare for all that I've made, and I think needs to be heard is, right now, I can tell you right now, there are women, and it's not just women, but there are people going into a job where they're being physically, emotionally, sexually harassed on the regular by somebody in that job, and they can't come forward because if they do, they're not going to have any insurance. So that needs to be fixed. But right now, the reality is all the things that have been said are rotten because they have nothing to do with, if you want to boil it down to a he said, she said, allegations were made. This person doesn't agree with them, deny the allegation and let it sit. If it goes beyond that, it goes beyond it. But sadly, it's Nick and the People's Party who have taken it to that point, and harm is being done to the person who made the allegations by this and her family and friends. Her name has been outed by people who say they support the party. And I have to implore you, that's not progressive. It's not progressive. And just like I can say this, I believe the victim, but I can't tell you 100% what happened because I wasn't there, right? So therefore, someone who doesn't believe the victim, you cannot say this is 100% a false allegation. And one important here that I think is very important with sexual harassment, and again, any attorney advising anybody on this should know this. Sexual harassment is not about the intent of the alleged perpetrator. It is about the effect on that victim. And it does not matter whether the person meant it or not. What matters is, how did that person interpret it? How did it make them feel? And if there's a pattern of behaviors that made them feel a certain way, negatively, traumatized, that's relevant. We can't say, well, you know, this isn't harassment because A, B, and C. It's politically motivated. It's this, it's that. And also, you know, to say that the board. Now, I'm not getting into the whole. I know there were board members that go. Right. Because, you know, honestly, I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. I'm worried about this person who I believe is a victim. I'm worried about her. She's doing okay, but this is not easy, and it was made difficult because of Nick, the People's Party, and their supporters who continue to be tribal about this issue when we can't be tribal. And as far as like, you want politics brought in? No movement can survive if an individual is bigger than that movement. Just letting you know. That's my 2 cents. You don't have to, I'm no political consultant, so you don't got to listen to me on that. But this is a concern. Trauma is real. It doesn't take place just at the moment that the events happen. It can last a lifetime. That's why trauma treatment can and is helpful. But this constant re-traumatizing of having this played out in the media and talking about the relationship and this and that, and their name is out, all of that, I agree with you. That's right out of the Democratic playbook, but it's also really damaging. And I guess the thing that I want to say about that is it's also profoundly disappointing that a progressive third party is doing this.
Right.
Yet
Right.
there are people in that party that have worked really hard. Right. And I'll tell you this, I don't do that level of organizing that they do. I've done it in the past. I know it's hard work. So I don't want to disparage anybody that. Nobody wants to see their dream crumble, but I'm letting you know, individuals are not bigger than movements. And that has to be thought about here. What's important here? You know, and I'm not going to advise, should he step down? Should he not step down? But I will tell you this, when he was asked on Savvy's show and he begins to cry,
Oh my God.
I have to tell you, listen, man, Nick, grow up. Seriously, dude. And you don't break into tears, because guess what? You were not publicly accused by a person of sexual harassment. So you're not the victim here.
What you saw is a person crying at the possibility of him losing power.
Absolutely.
That's what you saw.
And, you know, trying to garner sympathy with people. I'm not saying the tears weren't real. I don't know. But I can tell you this. It ain't about you right now. Let's make sure that when women come forward, and I don't just blanket say everybody that makes an accusation should be 100% believed no matter what. I am not saying it. I've never said it. I actually don't even love the phrase believe women, because it's just like, let's be intelligent here. What are we saying? What we're saying is this: victims come forward. They have the right to come forward, be it at work, privately in an internal investigation, to the police, or to make a public statement. They also have the right to not say anything at all. And I get being accused isn't a fun thing for anybody. I can imagine it's upsetting for him to hear that when that came forward to him. So you deny it and you move on. But everything that's been done since then is, and you know, and I really don't like the word woke. I haven't liked it for quite a while. It's not about being woke. This is about saying that it's unacceptable to shame a victim. Saying that it's unacceptable to defame somebody's character. The person hasn't even come forward. And there are people who are walking around thinking they know their name. What about safety issues? Right? This is not how we handle this. And I understand there's people out there who are saying, listen, I haven't seen any evidence. What are you saying? I should believe you because you're an expert? My answer is no. But I'm saying what I believe. I've spoken with this person, like I said, basically daily now since we've been connected. Her trauma is real. I believe her story. I think she's credible. I'm deeply concerned about what continues to be said about her. I'm coming forward because I want it to stop. And I'm asking people to stop talking about it in a way that puts a victim in danger or re-traumatizes them. I am not telling you what to believe. And I'm not, that's not my place. And I get, Kendra says it, the internet is ruthless and people can be mean. There should be a warning on every web page or every page. And
you know what it is? In American culture, people are, I'm just thinking of this off the top of my head. People are all going through pain. And on the internet, you have the anonymity. Is that the right word? You're able to be anonymous and inflict pain. You're feeling pain, so you want to inflict it,
Mhm.
right? So you go and you be so super aggressive in these comments and overly describe things and overreact. Like I don't know. That's just something off the top of my head. I was thinking about that also. But let me say this. A lot of what you said here is a lot of what I mentioned before, and
Right.
it's the process that was I have the problem, and I said this earlier. I don't know what is true and no or not. I wasn't there. I don't know. I haven't talked to Nick. I haven't talked to the victim or the alleged victim. I haven't talked to either one, so I don't know the guilt or innocence. But I do know is that the reaction by Nick, Brana, and MPP to the process of this process is just terrible. Like
Yeah.
it's been just terrible. So what would you recommend at this point? Because you said at the end, I'm sorry, were you some of
Yeah,
the points you wanted to hit?
I do have a couple, but yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I just want to thank you for Revolutionary Blackout Network. You, Nick, everybody are so amazing, and it's like seriously, I just was listening to Nick, something that he was doing the other day, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a master class. Like you guys are putting content out almost daily, and it's so important. But thank you for dealing with this issue in a way that's even-handed, all right? Because I think it is. So a couple of points I want to make. Yeah, the whole way this was handled is victim blaming, victim shaming, rape culture, and rape apology. And I do unfortunately agree with CJ. It sounds like. Now you can tell me differently if you can show me that that's not what your intention was. People's Party sounds like something right out of the Democratic and the Republican playbooks. And I can't imagine that that's why people would come to a third party. They want something different. And so I keep to the people that haven't made their minds up yet, I understand. And that's fine. You're not, I in no way am I saying you're anti-woman or pro-harassment if you're not ready to say that you know enough to conclude anything. I understand why people don't know. You know what? I've spoken with this person regularly. I know what I've heard. I can tell you this. Those conversations have not been easy. I know they weren't easy for that person. And they weren't easy for me. And I was rarely am I hurt on Twitter. People know I got a thick skin. And look, I invite it. I'm not like you got to agree with me on anything. Fine, live your life.
Are you talking about the comment? You talking about the comment today off the graphic that I saw?
I don't know if it was off the graphic, but one was like, "I'm a grifter for clicks."
Yes,
and,
that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I'm like, let me just tell you, I can't reveal much of anything about what I've spoken with this person about. But within the past few days, I had a conversation that shook me. And I'm not trying to lay a bomb here like, oh, something. I don't know. All I know is the person is suffering trauma. Let's not add to it, Twitter folks. And by the way, I'm here with her blessing and permission. I'm not grifting.
It's more than Twitter, folks. We're saying if you're a lefty in policy,
yeah,
you're in theory, you're part of the community. So we're this is a stream coming to our community saying we have to do better than this.
Right. And I would like to
challenge
the people who, because I was excited when the People's Party started. Like, listen, there's the Green Party. The more people that wake up to the fact that the duopoly is a hot steaming pile of garbage, the better. Right. But I am now throwing a challenge out, and I will grant it. I haven't seen everybody's timelines, but anybody who was at that summit, was it December of 2020? The People's Party. It was like a big convention. And
yeah.
If anybody was there and spoke, like Marianne Williamson, I believe, spoke. I believe she was there. Ryan Knight. God, there was like
Chris Hedges, Cornell West was there. Yeah, there was a bunch of people there.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore. I just want people to be part of this thing. And I want to say this. I encourage people to stand up, use their influence behind the scenes to say, stop shaming this person now. Let it go. You denied it. Keep your mouth shut and just stop it. And then it would be nice if some people came for Marianne Williamson. I was just looking at some of her tweets today, and sometimes she says things and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then sometimes she says things and I'm like, before you tweet that.
Yes.
But stand up publicly and say, this needs to stop. I'm not asking you to say, Nick Brana is a so-and-so. You know what? Because that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about the way we respond when these things happen. Second person, you're welcome, Kate. Thank you for the work you do and continue to do. I just want to say, as the second person who called me a doctor, sadly, I am not a doctor. And I can't say that ship has sailed. But what I can say is, thank you for your comment, because it makes a lot of sense. It is important. Another
a lot of lay people assume therapist or means doctor a lot of times, and it doesn't. Or professor. They believe, you believe that means doctor, and it just doesn't.
It could be. I work with lots of PhDs and doctorate people, and I've thought about it myself, and that could happen in the next few years. I will say that a lot of the courses, I've been called like, oh, you're just an adjunct. And I'm like, adjuncts are professors, by the way. They're called I get paid less. My contract is semester to semester. But here's the thing. It's not because I teach at Columbia or this place or that place that matters when it comes to my expertise. It's because I've done the work for decades. Now, another recommendation I would have for the People's Party, you need to talk to somebody outside of your legal circle who knows what the hell they're talking about when it comes to sexual harassment. You need to talk to somebody in the victims advocacy fields who understands these dynamics. If I wasn't involved the way I am with speaking with the victim, I'd be a good person for that. But you know what? There's lots of people that can do it, because your approach is not good. It's not helpful. And I know there's good people connected with that party and that group. We can't change what's happened over the past week. We need to be better moving forward, right? And I'm asking people to keep an open mind about this. But we have to stop beating on somebody who hasn't even come forward. And I won't even say yet if they ever do. After this, at some point tonight, or tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a call with that person. I'm going to be, listen, I did what I could to stand up for you. But the rest is on the people listening. Let's tone it down. Because what I'm not doing is, I'm not calling for his resignation. I'm not calling him, I'm not even going to say the word. Like, I'm not saying he's a this or that, or he did this or that. I'm saying I believe the person who made the allegations, because I do. My trauma training, I feel very confident in saying that. That's my conclusion after having spoken to her. Let's all just take a step back, learn what we can about sexual harassment, and take a breath here, see what happens and what develops in the very least. But what's been happening to this point is not good.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy you came on, and I know this is the third time I'm saying it, but we didn't plan this, so I had no idea the approach, because it was kind of like, I talked to her, but I can't really divulge anything. So I didn't really know how this was going to really go in detail, but it actually went very well, and it we are in community, and we're asking for us to tone down this rhetoric. It's traumatic. It's traumatic. This can have a traumatic effect, especially if she reads it, if the person reads it, if the person sees it, if somebody tells her about it. Like, it's traumatic, especially knowing that you all along you thought this was going to be a private matter. All along. So it's very traumatic. Any last words here?
Yeah, I do think if anybody out there has been hurt by the conversations they've seen, consider taking a break. I know there are people in my life who would laugh a lot if they heard me say, consider taking a break from social media, because it's something that I have a hard time doing. Twitter can be a toxic hellhole, but it can also be a wonderful place for people to connect. Let's not be ableist as well, because let's understand that for some people, this is the only way they can make human connection, right?
Right.
So, is it possible we can use our social media platforms? And people are going to be like, "Well, your tweets are all acerbic, and you hate the Democrats." You know what? You're right. And I think about it sometimes, like, can I say something positive today? Uh, but but I do. It's
no.
hard, but I do. Like, because you get in that negative thing, you start to spiral in it, and I get it. It takes its toll, and you know what? Every now and then, I'm going to post a picture of a puppy. I'm not even kidding. But
There's just so much stuff. If
I know.
the empire is doing so much stuff, that's the reason. Like it's endless. But continue.
People's Party, like I said, get trained. You and something I want to ask, because I heard something about this, but I do not know for sure. Somebody needs to, a journalist, a journo, somebody who's good at this, not me, needs to ask the People's Party, what is your official stated written policy on sexual harassment in the workplace that's in your employee's handbook? Because you should have one. It's a sophisticated organization with over 2,000 members, and I don't know how the structure works. What your stated sexual assault and harassment policy, and when was it written and distributed to all employees and volunteers? A journalist who talks about this and talks to anyone who's currently on the board or Nick themselves needs to ask, where is this policy? When was it distributed? To whom? Have you done trainings on workplace sexual harassment and assault? Because you should. And I've heard that there may not be one. I don't know. But who's got an employee handbook? There should be an employee handbook. Like every place I've worked, you have to sign for the handbook. Like I read everything. That's, don't use my internet to shop for clothes while I'm supposed to be working. But sorry, you know what? Sometimes the mood hits and I want to buy an outfit and I don't want to just look at it. Right. But anyway, the point is that employee handbook, there should be one. Everybody should sign their receipt that they got it. And in it should be a stated, clear, and thorough policy on sexual assault and harassment. And it should be distributed to every volunteer and everybody who works there. And if there is a sexual assault policy, I need to know when. When was it put into place? And does everybody have it? And if there isn't one, they need to answer, why isn't there a policy on this? Because that's not okay either. That's some advice I would give.
Absolutely. I do believe we have come to the end of this stream. This was a special stream to talk about this topic, a very important topic. I had my reasons why I wanted to talk about it, personal reasons. I've been traumatized in the same sort of way I spoke about this earlier in my stream. Mm-hmm. So I took a personal offense in the process and how this was handled, and all the ways that you mentioned. I happened to mention a lot of the same ones earlier. So that's the place
I'm not co-opting. I promise.
But when you go back, whenever you eventually see the stream, you'll see what I mean. Like,
listen, when I say that, I'm not going to co-opt or copy people who do the hard work that you do on a regular basis, which is being a podcaster, which I think about like, there are things I would like to do or say in a podcast. Putting the level of work that you do in is amazing, and it serves a purpose, and you're helping many of us see things in different ways that we haven't seen them before. But it's true, like, we didn't talk about this, and it's kind of funny, although I'm not surprised because, like, we have similar values. I hope my perspective added something, and I just didn't sound like I was repeating all your excellent points from before.
No, it wasn't in that way. Maybe the audience didn't hear it, but I'm hearing what you're saying, and it sounds in my own head similar. It's not at all verbatim or anything like that. So,
Well, listen, isn't it good that men can have this conversation, right?
yes.
And men, let's have these conversations amongst ourselves. Maybe there are times we've said or done things we shouldn't have, or didn't say something and spoken up when we should have. Can we talk about how to be better? Like, can we use this as a learning experience? And one other thing I would say, probably not a good idea if there was a consensual relationship for somebody in a position of power to have been involved in that relationship, whether or not it violated rules. Again, there needs to be clear rules about it. It's not a good idea. So, and I'm not being moralistic here. I get it. You can't control who you fall in like with or attraction with or whatever. I get that. And I'm not being a jerk to any of the parties there. I'm just saying the person who's at the head needs to say, listen, this is not, you're awesome. If we weren't in this play, but listen, that's not even the point about harassment, but there needs to be clear policies. But I'm glad men like us can talk about this, and I can't wait to watch your episode.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. Thank you for everybody watching on Rockfin. Thank you for everybody on YouTube and Twitter. Like this video. We're trying to hit 15,000 subscribers by our 1-year anniversary on April 1st. So we're probably about 1,000 subscribers short. So if you like the content, please subscribe. Tomorrow, the schedule lineup for tomorrow, I believe I should be here at 3 p.m. Eastern for my You Left Shit Out podcast, and then that's going to be followed by the roundtable, and then Friday is Sabby Sab. So that is this. Right. We try to have something. We try to have something every day and make sure we're putting out a lot of content. So yeah, so make sure you're staying in tune, connected with RBN. Check out the streams, and I shall we're signing off here. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks.